Well, for every transaction, there has to be a good to be sold or goods to be bartered for and funds. So one person has one item, the other person has an equivalent, hopefully, amount of funds to purchase the item or a equivalent item to barter for or exchange. Now, there's something else that's not really covered during this, and that's knowledge or expertise. You know, I hate to say it, but knowledge is kind of the great equalizer, or in a transaction, or it can be the great unequalizer. So, it's important. It's important if you're going to do a luxury watch, do your homework. Do your homework, gather up your smarts, because if you don't do your homework, if you don't bring your A game horologically and expertise to the table, you're either going to bring extra knowledge or going to bring extra money. I'd rather bring the extra knowledge. So now, in a lot of times, if one person has a lot more knowledge or expertise than the other one in a transaction, that usually equates to just exploitation or the potential for exploitation. And that doesn't really matter if the person bringing the more smarts to the table is a buyer or a seller. Now, for instance, there are scavengers that go on Craigslist and other for sale sites. Now, there's a kid in Dallas, and we've dealt with each other a couple of times. I'm not going to give him free publicity, but I'll just call him Sharko. Now, Sharko is a sharp kid. He is razor sharp, and pretty much this is how he makes a living, is just going around and buying and selling items of value on Craigslist. He's like a jeweler without a jewelry store. So, actually, what he has to do is bring knowledge of the item, approaching potential sellers on Craigslist or OfferUp or other similar sites, and has to bring enough information, knowledge, and expertise to talk the sellers down. When you're selling something privately, you're wanting to get used retail for it. His job is to go in and to talk you down and to get your item for used wholesale so he can get used retail on it. So, great work if you can get it, but you really have to be sharp and you have to bring a lot of knowledge to the table. Now, of course, and that's also the seller. If the seller has a lot more knowledge or expertise than the buyer, then of course the buyer is going to get taken advantage of or not get the best deal possible. And obviously, the biggest people at that, the best practitioners of the games, are jewelers. Kind of like Sharko, they have to beat you down if they want to buy your item, and then take the same item, put it on their magical, wonderful shelves, and the piece of crap that you just sold them becomes elevated into a piece of fine horological art, an heirloom. So, there are ways to get around that. Number one is to do the knowledge yourself, do the homework. Look at the pros and the cons. Make sure that you know everything about the item that you want to buy or sell as possible. There's even a way to kind of level the playing field even with the jeweler. What I found is that jewelers who are selling items count on people coming in to buy items or people coming in to sell items, not both. So if you have to short sell something to a jeweler or a used watch guy, go into their shop a day or two before you have the item. Ask questions about it, about your item. Say, well, in this case, let's just say you've got a Polar Explorer 2. I'm looking for a Polar Explorer 2, the smaller one, the 165 whatever, the Polar, like ArchieLuxury says. How much? Do you have any of those available? No. How long has it been since you've had those available? Ask. Soak in all the information you can from them. And if they have one, better yet, ask every question you can about it. So what year is that one? What kind of condition is it in? Has it been serviced? Do you have anything showing? Was it done in-house, or was it done at a service center? Do you have documentation showing it was serviced? Do you have box and papers for it? What kind of overall condition is it in? If you were to send this over to Bob's Watches, what condition would Bob's rate it at? So, okay, a 165/70 from 2005, that's in average or very good condition. You're selling with no box and papers. Or, okay, the box that you're providing, the papers that you are providing, sells for $7,500. Okay. Nice thing is, go back in a couple days later with your Polar Explorer. And that way, when the jeweler tries the little, here down the street, it's Cheap Charlie. And like I said, and I understand Charlie has to eat. I understand that perfectly, but I'll be goddamned if I'm going to feed him filet mignon. Charlie can suck it up, lower the price, and have a hamburger, as far as I'm concerned. So when Cheap Charlie pulls his little case of, or Sharko for that matter, well, unfortunately, it doesn't have this. Unfortunately, it doesn't have this. Well, that's funny. You don't have any of these in stock, so you evidently have no problem selling them. The last time I checked, you had one in stock. You sold it for this much. Or, that's funny, you've got one that's a year older than mine that doesn't have box and papers, that appears to be in the same condition, that you don't have any service paperwork, and you're saying mine's worth $4,000, but you're selling that one for $79,000 plus tax. You need to do better than that. So anyway, it's kind of the reason why a lot of the online folks don't buy and sell from the same people. I love Christian. I love Christian from Theo and Harris, and I love reading about the articles of Dinky. But they don't buy items from their readers. They don't buy items for their fans and enthusiasts, and it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Because if Christian was to, if you found an item that you're excited about and you want to sell to Christian, and he tells you it's a piece of crap, or beats down the value of it, if you were to turn around 2 weeks later and see it on his site and see him talking about how wonderful and marvelous it is, you'd probably be a little upset. And I can't, so jewelers can't really have their buyers and their sellers in the same room with each other. They want to keep those people separate. The other thing is, a lot of times the scavengers as well, the Sharkos of the world, the scavengers, the pickers or whatever, they count on people not knowing what they're selling. It's exploitation, let's be honest. But on the other hand, you don't have a duty to educate. You don't have a duty to educate the other party. It's caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Or in this case, let the seller beware. So if you are selling something and you haven't taken the research, the time to really look it up, check it out, authenticate it, or verify its value, that's kind of your own fault. So is there, have you ever had a transaction where you could tell there was a knowledge gap? I was thinking about trading at one point my my Yachtmaster to Sharko. And obviously I could, we talked about possibly trading for the JLC he was offering and still is offering. And I quickly heard the silence. I could almost literally hear the adding machine being, and it breathed far too quickly. Fortunately, Fortunately, I had enough sense to realize that if he agrees to it that quickly, it probably wasn't a good deal for me. Also, one of the things you also have to realize about is, people talk about, Clyde, you're stuck in Rolex. Well, I kind of halfway know Rolex. I kind of know what they go for. I study that a lot. I see what they go for new. I see what they go for used. I'm aware of the scams out there. I'm aware of what's popular and what sells and what doesn't. So for me to go into another brand, I'm very hesitant to, because I'm stepping from relative safety, relative expertise, to being just another hick or hayseed or rube. So when you go into every transaction, you have to ask yourself, who's probably bringing the most knowledge to the table? Am I the rancher? Or if I go into this, am I going to be the livestock? Always a good question. And sometimes you really don't know. So the other thing, oh my God, I could kick myself for this. And it could be that's like, when I say this, maybe everyone out there is cracking open their beer or their adult beverages or soft drinks and saying, no shit, dumbass. And you might be. But I cannot, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but if I thought about it, I'd be running around taking a halfway decent pair of reading glasses. Get a loop. If you're going to buy a watch, get a freaking jeweler's loop. There is no reason not to have so. That would have saved me so many mistakes. That would have saved me so much money. As a matter of fact, I've got a nice one on a strap. I'm going to Amazon, and I'm just going to carry a spare one in my car. That way, if I need it at any point, I can just reach in the center console, pull it out, check that sucker out. And it could be, maybe I'm the only person who didn't realize that. And if so, anyway, are there any points that I have missed out on? Is there something I didn't get right? Is there something vital I've overlooked? I wouldn't be surprised. I know this is really, really lengthy, but honestly, and before you do anything, I hate to say it, Archie, for a beginner, is an excellent resource. Check out Hodinkee. Read. Check out, if you're going to do Craigslist, check out Craigslist for your entire area. Do it for weeks before you pull the trigger. Anyway, I hope that helps, and if not, then at least I've amused you with what a dumbass I am. Have a good one. Halfway through the week. Bye.